Hello YouTubers, fellow hams, and everybody else. Well, time for a vlog entry again since I'm getting ready to move. I've been here in Kingman for more than a month and a half, going up on 2 months I guess. And the heat is here. And I think as I mentioned in a previous video, the air conditioning unit conked out. Thanks, by the way, for all the suggestions everybody's made. I do know at least a couple of people that work professionally in HVAC, which I've been talking to. And the consensus seems to be that it's either going to be the start-run capacitor on the compressor, which could be failing and bringing the amperage up, causing the compressor to overheat and shut down. Or it could be a transfer relay if one exists on this particular model, which some compressors on refrigeration units have two sets of windings. There's a start winding and a run winding. And there's a transfer relay that initially energizes both to start the compressor up, and then once it's running, switches off the start winding and just leaves the run winding. And if that relay has failed, both windings stay energized and the compressor heats up and then shuts down for thermal reasons again. So it's likely to be one of those two, and I'm going to probably when I'm up in Oregon, or maybe even when I get back down here, I don't know, tear into it, find out what it's got for those parts, order the replacement parts, and replace them. I'm not going to need the unit until maybe September when I come back down here to Kingman. So yeah, I'll take my time and do it right and do the research and make sure I get the right parts and all that. So, you know, I'll get it fixed. I'll definitely get it fixed. We're done with the hot days for a little while here. It's Friday, I think. And yesterday was the last triple-digit day. It was over 100 degrees, which is, I think, 37.7 Celsius. You know, getting close to 38 Celsius, which is quite hot. I've got bedhead going on. Time to buzz the hair again. It's getting long enough to show when I've been laying on a pillow. Anyway, what else is going on? Well, I'm getting ready to head north, as I said. I'm going to spend the month of June slowly making my way up through Nevada and eastern Oregon. And I've got a destination initially up in Vernonia, a ham that I've met down in Yuma. One of the rat packers, Keith, K7OTP. Going to go and visit him for a week, park in his driveway, and then at the end of June, I'll go down to my summer spot there that I've been invited to visit, and it's an intentional community, I guess a modern version of a hippie commune. So on my bucket list, I've always wanted to visit a place like that. I've most of my personal close friends back in Fort Wayne are, I guess you'd say, ex-hippies. You know, they wear tie-dye and like the Grateful Dead concerts, and we were all born a little too late to have gone to Woodstock. If I'd been born 15 years earlier, I probably would have ended up at Woodstock. I just enjoy those kind of people, creative, artistic people. That's my favorite kind of people to hang out with. And I just happened to meet a ham down there in Yuma, and she owns some property in Oregon and has a small community of artists. And that's where I'm going. I'm not going to reveal their location or anything yet. I don't know if, you know, how open they are to that. I'll be doing some filming up there because we're going to do some radio-related projects. She's a ham. Her husband's a ham. She just got her general down in Yuma, so she's wanting to get into HF. And we're going to put up some HF antennas and get her station all set up. So there'll be some videos. And also some videos just playing radio up there. I'm going to get the end-fed half-wave up. Hopefully it's quiet, and try to get on 630 meters, which I've been trying to do for a while. And who knows what else. As I said, it's going to be a long trip. I've got a route that was laid out with the assistance of a ham friend that's up there. And as you can see, it's a long route. It's about 1,300 miles. So I've been looking at places to stop along the way and park for a week here, a week there, and take my time getting up there. And I've got another hobby I'm getting back into. I used to really be into metal detecting. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I had a Garrett AT Pro, which is a great machine. And there, during those 2 years after losing the job and looking for employment, I actually had to sell it to make a house payment, and I really, really regretted that. Well, with the current situation with COVID and the economic stimulus package that went out, I decided to spend the majority of my stimulus money at an American company, and I bought a Garrett AT Max metal detector. Yoo-hoo! So I'm going to get back into metal detecting. And on this particular trip, it goes through a lot of dead towns, especially in eastern Oregon. The route takes me through where there used to be a little town that's been dead for decades. And I'm hoping to be able to stop at a few of those and spend a little time creating some chirps and squeaks and digging things out of the ground. When I first got this here a few days back, I went around the property here. I didn't expect to find anything because it's not an old property. This was open desert up until just a few decades ago when the county put a road through here and people started moving in. So I didn't expect to find anything, and I found a few bits of change and some junk and some bullets, fired bullets, and cartridges. But I did find a little silver-plated button, which I got a picture of. I'll show you here. So that was cool. The current owner here, Tony, he and his wife, they didn't recognize it, so it wasn't from them. So it must have been here from the previous owner or the original owner of this property 20, 30 years ago. But it's not solid silver, it's silver plated, but still kind of nice to find a neat little trinket like that. And metal detecting is not really about making money. People think you go out and find rings and gold and everything right away. No, you don't. In fact, in the 3 years that I was at it previously, I think I only found one gold wedding band. And here's a little thing about metal detecting. On all the machines that exist, a gold ring will indicate exactly the same as a pull tab off of a pop can. So it's because of the conductivity of the metals. Gold and aluminum are pretty close in conductivity and the round shape. They indicate almost exactly the same. So if you're after rings, you're going to dig a lot of pull tabs. And they are everywhere. Back in Indiana, I went deep into the woods once. I wanted to just go as remote as possible to where there's been the least amount of human traffic as possible and just see what I could find. And I went deep into the woods in this state park, off the trail, made my own trail to where it just didn't look like people had been there at all. I just wanted to see what was there, if there was anything in the ground at all. And I started swinging the detector, and I got a signal right away that looked like it might be a ring. I got excited, and I dug it up, and guess what? It was a pull tab. Out in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, I dug a pull tab. They're the bane of metal detector guys because they're everywhere. People just pop them off their pop cans, flip them off into the grass, and ignore them and litter, So you do get a lot of junk. For me, it's exciting and it's interesting. I'll dig up relics sometimes, old things that are obviously machined and made, but you don't know what they're for. And I'll go do the research and figure out what they're for and what they were, and it's just interesting. It's and it's a little exciting because occasionally you dig up something that's silver. You get old coins, any quarters or dimes that are older than 1964 or 1964 or older are going to be silver, so there is some of that. I've gone metal detecting and found enough stuff to have myself a nice steak dinner at Applebee's, so you don't make a ton of money. It's more just a little exercise and a little excitement. Each time you dig something up, it's like finding a little treasure, and occasionally you do find little treasures, and so it's not for everybody, but I enjoy it. And traveling around out here, there's been times where I wished I still had a machine like that. The desert areas down Quartzsite and Yuma, there's these deep washes where the rainwater's carving down into the desert, and that is gold country. People go down there and they pan in those washes and they find little gold nuggets and all that. So there's that. I might do some of that when I get back down there. So yeah, that's where my stimulus check went. It went to an American company, Garrett, over in Texas, and I've got a metal detector again. So something more for me to enjoy out here, because you can only do one thing so much. You know, radio, antennas, most of what I've been doing for the channel, burnout's a thing, especially when you're reliant upon something as your job. If you make a hobby your job, it loses a lot of the fun. You know, it becomes work. Every time I turn the radio on now, it's work. It's like I have to think about content for the channel, you know. So I need another thing to spend my time with. I do a lot of nature photography and that too, but there's a lot of things that I used to like to spend my time with: fishing, metal detecting, photography, wildlife watching, hiking. You know, there's a lot of things that I used to spend my idle time with that I want to get back into a little bit. Which up in Oregon, I'm going to do some of that. Where I'm going to be is right on the edge of a national park. It's deep in the woods. It's a logging road to get to it, which they tell me I'll be able to drive just fine in the big rig because it's well maintained and still used by logging. Big logging trucks go down that road, so it's fairly well maintained. But it's remote. It's on the edge of a valley, mountains on one side of it, valley on the other side of it. Where they're at, it's kind of a plateau. Deep, thick woods, lots of wildlife, lots of birds. Yeah, another thing I'm going to do is some binaural recording. I have these microphones that go in my ears. So they record a stereo image exactly as your ears would pick it up. And if you play one of those recordings back in headphones and close your eyes, you can hear, your brain can decode the little changes in phase and everything, and you can hear not just left and right, but also up and down and forward and back. It's like 3D audio. I have another video on my channel. It's a recording that I did, a binaural recording, sitting on the edge of a reservoir deep in the woods in northern Indiana. And I'll put a link in the description below if you want to check it out. It's like 4 or 5 in the morning, deep in the woods. It's spring, so all the birds are really active. And there is just tons of sound in that. If you put on headphones, and that's really the way to listen to it, put on headphones, close your eyes, and just look with your ears. And you'll hear, there's one point where a heron flew overhead, and you can hear him coming from way out in front of you and going past overhead and exiting behind you. It's a really neat, deep, broad, incredible recording. And I want to do some more of that up in the Oregon woods, where there'll be a wealth of sound. You know, there'll be a soundscape to enjoy. The desert's pretty quiet, and I kind of like the quiet. You know, it's real quiet out here at times, almost dead silent. You can sit outside and hear yourself breathing because it's so quiet. Yeah, anyway, I'm babbling again. What else is going on? Once I get rolling, I do have a review video to do. You've probably seen these little HF amplifiers. See that? It's a little HF amplifier for QRP radios. I saw one that Keith, the guy I'm going to visit, has for his FT817, and I wanted one. And the reason I wanted it was there are times when I'm off-grid where battery power is at a premium. Maybe it's been cloudy for a few days, or it's the evening, you know, and I don't want to run the 7300 because it's such a current hog. And we're going to compare the two. This little amp, if I put 5 watts into it, gives you 45 watts out. If I put 1 watt into it, gives you 20 watts out. So it gives me a nice low-end, little extra kick with the QRP radio where I need it, but not a huge hit to the battery. And I had somebody in comments when I talked about this before say, 40 watts is 40 watts. Your 7300's going to draw the same at 40 watts and no, it won't. The 7300 has that big color LCD backlit display. It has DSP chips, several CPU, and a lot of electronics drawing current. It draws a lot more power than what the FT817 and this little amp are going to draw, but we'll look at that. You know, we'll compare the two. I have, the way I've got my power control center over here set up, I can easily disconnect the battery, run off of a power supply that has a fairly accurate ammeter on the front, and I can compare things that way. So we'll look at that. We'll transmit with the 7300 and with the FT817 and amplifier combination, and we'll look at the current draw difference and see how much more efficient it is doing it this way. And we'll open it up. We'll look at the device that's in it for its output and the construction and all that. And it'll be a full-on overview review video for this little amp. So I'll be doing that once I get at my first stop on the road. I'm going to be leaving out of Kingman and going a ways north into Nevada, and I've looked at a few BLM, Bureau of Land Management properties that are up there where you can park for 1 or 2 weeks. And that's kind of the plan, is to get up there a ways north, higher in elevation where it's cooler, find a place like that, load up on groceries and water, and park for a week or two, and put up an antenna, do a video or two there, and then move on further north through Nevada up into eastern Oregon. And that's where I'm looking forward to going with the metal detector, because the route takes me through some dead cities, little towns that are just trashed remains of a town now, abandoned towns. And I'm looking forward to maybe doing a little metal detecting here and there. There are laws about metal detecting you have to be aware of when you're in different areas, different properties. Like the BLM lands down here in Arizona, metal detecting is allowed, but there are some restrictions. You can collect coins, gold nuggets, but if you find relics, articles and items, from the 1800s or whatever, you got to leave those. You can't take out relics, or they have to go to an historical society. And meteorites have to be turned in. If you find a meteorite, you have to turn that into the state. Those are the basics of the laws here in Arizona, and they vary state to state. So one thing about metal detecting is to know the laws in your current state about what you can do, what you can't do. And of course, be a good steward of the land. Don't just leave holes everywhere you go. I hate guys that do that. They give us all a bad name. Most metal detector guys will cut a plug if we're in soil. We'll pull the plug out. We'll get the target out. We'll put the plug back, tamp it down a little bit, and the grass doesn't die. And you don't leave any mark or mess, and that's the way to do it. So, yeah, I'm still babbling. So yeah, anyway, getting ready to go. It's Friday, and Tuesday, I guess, is the day I think I'm going to go. Got to schedule an oil change for Serenity, get the old rig ready to roll, and hopefully I can schedule the oil change for Tuesday morning, and then I can roll out of here, get the oil changed, and just hit the road. So that's the plan. And up into Nevada, I'll do some filming along the way, pull some dash cam footage, probably put together a little extra content for my Patreon supporters. Some of that content will make it into the videos that I do on the road, of course. But that's most of what June is going to be, is traveling. Travel, park, travel, park, travel, park as I make my way up to Oregon. And the reason that I'm doing it that way, in case you're curious, is because it's still quite wet up there in Oregon. That's raining, raining, raining. They get several days a week of rain, and it's slowly trickling off. And I am told by my future host up there that around solstice, around June 20th or so, the rain really starts to settle down and trickle off, and by July it's just dry, which is important because soft, damp ground is no place that I want to drive this big, heavy RV. It would sink right in. So that's the plan. Make my way up through Nevada and eastern Oregon over June, and then settle into that spot for July and August, and then somewhere in September come back down to here, and then make my way back down through Quartzsite down to Yuma for the winter. So that's the long-term plan. Hopefully things go well and the rig doesn't break down and I make it, because it's a long ways up there. This country is huge. The U.S. is huge for my European viewers. I think the state of Texas covers most of Western Europe. Just one state. It's a big place, so it does take a while to get anywhere. Okay, so that's the vlog, thoughts on the road before I move. The next video I'll be elsewhere, and we'll talk about this little amplifier. See you then. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Also, if you're not already a subscriber, click to subscribe. Join us on the Facebook channel for discussion about the videos. And if you'd like to help support this channel, please click to support me on my Patreon page.